Honey by Sarah Weeks. Chapter 10. Melody was beside herself. Calm down, Nick told her. You're jumping to conclusions. Think about it. Melody started taking off the evidence on her fingers. Miss Hogan's not married. She lives here in Royal. She's someone my dad knows. I really don't like. And she was whistling the same song he's been whistling every day for the past month. How do you explain that? A lot of people know that song, Nick said, trying to assure his friend. And like I told you before, that thing I said about your dad was just a theory. He's a nice guy. Why would he ever want to go out with someone like Miss Hogan? You mean someone who has no sense of humor, who enjoys tricking her students, and has permanent lipstick stains on her front teeth? Basically, Nick. Plus, I don't know whether you've ever noticed this, but her earlobes are freakishly large. Is this actually happening? Asked Melody. What if my dad and Miss Hogan get married? What if she and her freakishly large earlobes come to live with us in our house? We'll have to move to Siberia. I'm telling you, Bishop, you're jumping to conclusions, Nick. He started to wheel his bike across the street. What are you doing? Where are you going? Asked Melody. I thought you wanted to snoop around. What's the point? You already know who Honey is. Nick continued across the street, but instead of going up the front walk in plain view, he went around to the side. Leaning his bike against the yellow wall, he sneaked over to one of the windows and peered in. After a minute, he gestured for Melody to come join him. Fine, she grumbled, but I'm not going inside. Melody leaned her bike against the wall next to Nick's and joined him at the window. I see Miss Hogan, whispered Nick, pressing his nose against the glass. She's talking to some tall lady with curly red hair. That must be Bibi, Melody told him, remembering Tini's description of her macaroni hair. Noticing the window was open a crack, Nick slipped his finger under the edge and slowly inched it up. He and Melody leaned closer. I was thrilled when I heard you were opening up a beauty salon, they heard Miss Hogan saying. Your timing couldn't be better. I'm glad to hear that, said Bibi, as she led Miss Hogan over to one of the black and yellow striped styling chairs. So what are we doing today? Manicure, pedicure? Actually, what I need is some advice, Miss Hogan said, about hair. I can't decide whether I should wear it up or down. Then, of course, there's the question of ornamentation. I was leaning toward mother-of-pearl combs, but now I'm worried it might be too much. This is boring, whispered Nick. Shh, Melody shushed him. The first thing I'll need to know is what kind of occasion it is, said Bibi. I can't tell you that, said Miss Hogan. It's a secret. Can you at least tell me if it's black tie or casual? Asked Bibi. Melody noticed Miss Hogan seemed flustered. I really don't know the details yet, she said. It's all rather sudden. We haven't even told our families. I suppose everyone will know about it soon enough anyway, so I might as well just tell you. I'm getting married. Melody felt like she'd punched in the stomach. If Miss Hogan was getting married, that meant knock, knock. Knock, knock. Someone tapped Melody on the shoulder from behind. Startled, she spun around to find Tini Nelson standing there in her tutu. Go away, Melody hissed, waving away from the window. You're not the boss of me, said Tini, folding her arms over her chest. Melody grabbed Tini by the elastic waistband and the front of her tutu and dragged her over to where her neon pink bike was parked on the sidewalk. What are you doing here? Melody demanded. Did you find out about Henry and the love bug yet? Asked Tini. That's none of your business, snapped Melody. It is so, said Tini. You wouldn't even know about it if I hadn't told you. Nick came over and joined them. Are you okay, Bishop? He asked, putting his hand on Melody's arm. Your face is kind of red. Is he your boyfriend? Asked Tini, pointing at Nick. No, Nick and Melody said at the same time. Do you have a suntan, or are you always that color? Tini asked Nick. Nick's mother was African American, and his father was Chinese. What kind of question is that? Snapped Melody. I'm just saying, grumbled Tini. Does your mother know you're here? Tini looked down at her pink ballet slippers, which were streaked with dirt and grease from a bicycle chain. Maybe, she said. Or maybe she has a headache and told me to watch TV for an hour while she lay down and took a nap, for golly's sake. You didn't come all the way here by yourself, did you? Nick asked. I wore my helmet, Tini told him, pointing to the styrofoam door of the Explorer bike helmet hanging from the handlebars of her bike. And I didn't cross until I saw the white walkie man laid up. You're too little to be riding around by yourself, said Melody. Besides, you don't belong here. This isn't some silly game we're playing. This is about my life, or what's left of it anyway. I want a dum-dum, said Tini. How can you think about candy at a time like this? Asked Melody. I want a dum-dum, Tini said again. She started toward the door, but Melody reached out, snagging her by the back of her tutu this time. Not so fast, she said. I want a dum-dum, insisted Tini, trying to wriggle free. You're not going inside, Melody told her. None of us are. Tini turned around and glared at Melody. Why'd you come all the ding-dong way here if you're not even going to go inside, she asked. Don't you want to know about Henry and the love bug anymore? No, said Melody. But I want a dum-dum, Tini whined. Are you sure you don't want to go inside? Nick asked Melody. I still think you might be wrong about Miss Hogan. How much more proof do you need? She asked. She's honey, and not only that, apparently she's marrying my dad. Tini, still fixated on getting a dum-dum, decided it was time to take matters into her own hands. I'm going in, she announced. There was a loud ripping sound, and Tini took off running, leaving Melody standing there with her mouth hanging open, and that was what was left of Tini's pink tutu in her hand. Chapter 11. That little miscreant, fumed Melody as she balled up the torn tutu and shoved it into the basket of the front of Tini's bike. What do we do now? Asked Nick. We can't just leave her here. He was right, of course, but Melody was furious at Tini for barging in, as if she didn't have enough to deal with already. Come on, she told Nick. I suppose we better see what Tini is up to. Nick followed her back to the window. There she is, said Nick, cupping his hands around his eyes and peering into the salon. They watched as Tini, in only her leotard and tights, skipped across the salon and tugged on Bibi's sleeve. Bibi stopped what she was doing and leaned down, listening. Then she nodded her head and pointed to a glass bowl sitting on the counter. Tini skipped over to the bowl and, after pawing around for what seemed like about an hour, finally found what she was looking for. Melody preferred blow pops and Tootsie Pops, dum-dums, but now that Tini had her precious sucker, Melody hoped she would turn around and come back outside so they could leave. Instead, Tini tugged on Bibi's sleeve again, then to Melody's dismay, she pointed toward the window. Melody grabbed Nick and they ducked down as quickly as they could, but it was too late. They'd been spotted. Come on in and join the party, you two, Bibi called out from the doorway a minute later. The more the merrier. Now what are we going to do? Asked Melody. Nick shrugged. What choice do we have? But what are we going to say if Miss Hogan asks us what we're doing here? Don't worry, Nick assured her. I'll think of something. Welcome to the beehive, Bibi said, holding the door open as Nick and Melody reluctantly entered the salon. Teen had been right. Bibi Churchill's hair did look like macaroni, and it was a shade of red that could only have come from a bottle. Now that she was standing beside her, Melody realized Bibi had to be close to 6 feet tall. She was wearing a flowery dress and leather sandals, revealing 10 long pale toes, each nail painted a beautiful pinkish-orange color that reminded Melody of ripe papaya. Do I know you? Bibi asked Melody. Your face looks familiar. Her name's Melody, and she doesn't have a mama, said Tini, who was elbow deep in the candy bowl again. Bibi put her hand in her mouth and Melody wasn't sure, but she thought she saw tears in her eyes. You're Melody? She asked. Do you know me? Melody thought to herself. Am I supposed to know you? Melody Bishop, Miss Hogan cried, jumping up out of her chair. And is that Nick Wu with you? What on earth are you two doing here? Hello, Miss Hogan, Melody muttered. What are you doing here? Miss Hogan asked again. Melody turned to Nick, since he promised that he would handle the question if it came up, but Nick was busy gawking at the flowers on the ceiling and wasn't paying attention. I know why they're here, Tini piped up. They want to know about Henry and the love bug. Henry and the who? Asked Bibi, confused. Ignore her, Melody said quickly. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Do so, Tini insisted. Then she stuck her tongue out at Melody and ran over to one of the black and yellow striped styling chairs, throwing herself into it head first. She began pushing off the floor with her feet to make it spin. Look at me, she squealed. I'm waiting, Miss Hogan said, looking at Melody expectantly. Melody jabbed Nick in the ribs with her elbow to get his attention. Miss Hogan wants to know why we're here, she said. I thought maybe you'd like to tell her. Oh, said Nick, clearly caught off guard. So you want to know why we're here? I believe I've made that abundantly clear, said Miss Hogan. In the pressure of the moment, Nick panicked and blurted out the only thing he could think of. We came to get our fingernails painted. Yippee! Shouted Tini, leaping out of the chair. I want to pick my color. Dizzy from spinning, Tini careened across the room toward the cabinet containing the bottles of Bibi's homemade nail polish. But as she wobbled and weaved past Melody, somehow Tini got strangled up in her own feet and went flying, knocking the glass candy bowl off the counter and sending it tumbling to the floor with a terrible crash. Chapter 12. Mo didn't usually have dreams during the day, only at night. But that afternoon, after his encounter with the little girl with the sticky fingers, he fell asleep on the couch, and his eyelids immediately began to twitch. There she was again, his girl. The sunlight caught in her long yellow hair. Then she threw back her head and laughed. But wait, what was this? Something new, or had I simply not noticed it before? The girl was holding something in her right hand, her fingers clasped tightly around it. "It's you," she whispered, and started to open her hand. Mo caught a glimpse of something shiny, but then a terrible crash suddenly woke him from the dream before he could see what was in her hand. Chapter 13. "It wasn't my fault," Tini wailed. "Melody pushed me." "I didn't push you, Tini," Millie insisted. "It's so." "Stop arguing and somebody go find a broom," Miss Hogan said, taking charge. "There's one over there in the corner," Bibi said, pointing. "I'll go get the dustpan. Everyone please be careful not to step on the glass." "I'm gonna pick out my color," said Tini. Then she turned to Nick and added, "I'll pick one out for you too if you want." That's okay," said Nick. Tini marched over to the glass cabinet and, after examining the bottles of nail polish for a minute, plucked number 54 from the shelf. Tini looked over her shoulder to see if anyone was watching. There was something she'd been itching to do since the minute she walked into the beehive. With anyone busy cleaning up the glass from the broken bowl, now seemed like the perfect time. Moving slowly so as not to draw attention to herself, she made her way across the room to the row of hair dryers. Quietly climbing into a chair, she pulled one of the dome-shaped beehives down over her head and switched it on, grinning happily as the hot air began to whip her hair around. "We're really sorry," Nick told Bibi as he took the dustpan from her and squatted down on the floor. "No worries," Bibi told him. "I'm just glad nobody was hurt." Miss Hogan swept a pile of broken glass and candy into the dustpan, then turned to Melody. "What do you have to say for yourself?" she asked. "What do you mean?" Melody replied. "The child says you pushed her." "I didn't," said Melody, but she could tell by the look on her face that Miss Hogan didn't believe her. "If there's one thing I can't abide in a person," Miss Hogan sniffed with disdain, "is dishonesty." Melody felt her face getting hot. She knew that she shouldn't say anything, but she couldn't help it. "That's pretty funny coming from you, don't you think?" she said. Miss Hogan's eyes flashed, and when her upper lip curled, Melody saw a bright red lipstick stain on her front teeth. "I'm sure I don't know what you mean," Miss Hogan snapped. "You don't have to pretend anymore, Miss Hogan," said Melody. "Your secret is out. I know about the wedding. I know about everything." Miss Hogan was mad as a hornet. "You ought to be ashamed of yourself, Melody Bishop, poking your nose into other people's business. How dare you? When your father gets back from his camping trip, the three of us are going to sit down and have a serious talk about this." "Your father." The way she said it was so familiar. It gave Melody chills. After thanking Bibi for her time, Miss Hogan snatched up her hat and stormed out of the beehive, slamming the door behind her. Melody turned to Nick. "Now do you believe me?" she asked miserably. There's no getting around it. Things did not look good. Miss Hogan hadn't denied anything, and the fact that she knew Melody's father had gone camping was pretty incriminating, too. "I'm sorry, Bishop," Nick said. "Is there anything I can do?" "Yeah, ask your phone to find out how much a one-way ticket to Siberia cost," she told him. She was only half kidding. Bibi, who had been standing there quietly through all of this, finally spoke up. "Can somebody please explain what just happened?" she asked. "It's kind of a long story," Nick told her, "but I guess we could start by telling you that we didn't really come here to get our fingernails painted." "I did," cried Tini. She had grown bored with the hair dryer, and she was ready to move on to the main event. Her hair was so tangled and teased up from being under the dryer she looked like a tumbleweed with pink legs. "Here's the color I want," she said, holding up the bottle of nail polish she'd chosen earlier. Melody glanced over at Nick. "Do you want to tell her, or should I?" When Tini found out she wasn't going to getting a manicure after all, she had a total meltdown. "It's not fair," she said, stamping her foot. "I already picked out my color." "Maybe you can come back some other time with your mother," Bibi suggested. "But I want to do it right now," Tini sobbed, throwing herself down on the floor in despair. "Is there anything else you can think of that might cheer you up?" Bibi asked, leaning over. Tini looked up at Bibi, and Melody could hear the little gears turning inside her head again. "Candy makes my feelings feel better," Tini sniffled. It might have been the first thing Tini had ever said that Melody agreed with, but a mountain of wild-berry Skittles wouldn't have cheered Melody up now. Bibi went to the supply closet where she kept her stash of candy, and came back a minute later holding a bouquet of dum-dums in her hand. "What flavor do you want?" she asked. "Root beer," said Tini, plucking a sucker from the bunch. "And mystery too," she added, helping herself to a second dum-dum, this one with yellow question marks decorating the wrapper. "What flavor is mystery?" asked Nick. Mystery flavor, said Tini, pulling off the wrapper and jamming the dum-dum into her mouth. We should get going, said Melody. Tini's mother might be worried. Mama's taking a nap, said Tini, and I want to go in the back and see the dog. This isn't a good time, said Phoebe quickly. I just want to pat his head. The answer is no, said Melody firmly. Undeniably, undisputably, categorically no. It's time for us to go. Tini glowered at Melody, then turned and started to make a run for the white door that led to Beebe's apartment. Only Nick was too quick for her. He scooped her up and tossed her over his shoulder like a wriggling pink sack of potatoes. Come on, short stuff, he said. We're out of here. Nick carried Tini outside, but when Melody reached the door, Beebe put a hand out to stop her. I wish you'd stay, she told Melody, just for a little while. We need to talk. If it's about the bowl, said Melody, I'm sure my dad will lend me the money to buy you a new one. It's not about the bowl, said Beebe. Bishop, Nick called out from outside. Are you coming? Please stay, said Beebe. Melody hesitated, then leaned out the door. Would you mind taking Tini home? She asked Nick. I'll meet you back at the house in a little while. He didn't question her. He just nodded. From the way Tini was looking at him, Melody knew she'd be no trouble at all on the ride home. It was impossible not to like Melody. Once they were off, Melody closed the door. Thank you, said Beebe. Melody noticed her eyes looked moist again. So what did you want to talk to me about? Melody asked. Your mother, Beebe said.